how to land your first copywriting client. Hello, I'm Bernadette Schwerdt, and I've helped over 10,000 people find copywriting work and become successful copywriters. So before we jump into our particular topic today, I invite you to jump over to my website, copyschool.com/proposal, and you can actually download your proposal template right now that's going to help you land your first copywriting client. What do you need to land your first copywriting client? You need a proposal. Because after you've met somebody, let's say, and you've had a really good chat and they're interested in what you do and they'd like to actually work with you, the first thing they're going to say is, can you send me something? And that's your cue for sending over a proposal. Now, you might be thinking, what the heck do I put in the proposal, particularly if you've never done it before? We've got you covered. We've done a proposal template that aggregates the 30 years that I've been in copywriting and gives you the best of the best so that you just fill in the blanks and send. And that proposal will do all the work for you to land that most important client, which is your first one. Now, this proposal template is not just your average proposal template. It includes everything you need in order to win that first client. So, for example, it lets you know the introductory chit-chat that you need to say to build that rapport. It helps you communicate the scope of the project. It helps you identify the kinds of costings that you need to include in your proposal. It also helps you identify how the investment needs to be positioned. For example, let's just take a random figure of $10,000. Let's just say that's the amount. Now, if you just put in copywriting $10,000, right, that's going to be a bit of a sticker shock for the client, irrespective of the conversations you've had previously. So there are some really seamless and elegant ways that you can actually present that $10,000 that doesn't make it look so onerous. So one of the ways you can do that is to actually break it down and use different categories and topics to explain what the $10,000 gets them. And by doing that, the client goes, oh yeah, that looks reasonable. Yeah, I can see how that might take some time. And by the end of the proposal, they're going, this looks like really good value. So if you're a novice copywriter or emerging and you don't quite know what those categories are, we've got them for you. Because one of the challenges with copywriting is it's an invisible service. It's intangible. It's actually quite difficult to summarize all the things that we do and make them visible. And by using these particular headings and categories and topics, as I just mentioned, it does give tangibility to the intangibles. And it gives the client something to hold on to because they can often think, I could do that myself. And by sharing this kind of content with the client, it gives them a recognition that, yeah, it's not actually that easy. And there's a lot to it that they may not have been aware of. One of the other things that is a real sticking point with copywriters, particularly new copywriters, is actually getting revisions back from the client. And if it's one of your first clients, what can actually happen is the client sits on the revisions. And that's not because you're new. It's just that's what clients do, and you may not be aware of that. But if you're aware of it, then you've got a technique to get them back. So if you don't get the revisions back, the client sits on it, you can't actually finish the job, which means you can't get paid. That's really annoying because you've done all the work. So we've got a technique, and it's just a one or two liner in the proposal that guarantees you the client's going to take notice. They're going to sit up and get those revisions back to you quick smart because it's in their interest to do. So again, that one or two liner, which we've got for you, is already in the proposal, but it will make the absolute difference because you can get to finish the job, get paid, and move on to other projects. The other component in the proposal that I think you'll find very valuable is actually how to ask for your deposit. Now, you must get a deposit, preferably 50% down before the project begins. Now, the reason that's important is because it commits the client to you. If they don't pay anything up front and you're doing all the work, firstly, that's bad for your cash flow. But also, just say things go bad or they lose interest or whatever, then there's no obligation to pay you. That's not good. You don't want that. So you must always get your 50% deposit. So this proposal outlines how to ask for that quite elegantly and seamlessly. The other thing the proposal will do for you is ensure that the work that you do, you get permission to use it in your website as a testimonial. That's not a big deal, but by actually just incorporating it into your proposal, it just becomes part of the terms and conditions. and they sign off on that. And by the end of the project, they're very happy to give you that permission, but it's actually written as well because you've very quietly asked for it. And it just gives you that lovely knowledge that by the end of the project, you get permission to use all that work in your testimonials. The other thing that a lot of emerging copywriters struggle with are the terms and conditions. And we've got them ready for you. We've been doing this a long time. We know the things that you need to do to protect you. And it's all there in the proposal. And it's written so beautifully and softly that the client won't take offense. They'll just think that's pretty standard. And that's actually very reasonable as well. If you're wondering about all those kinds of things that might trip you up or enable the client to have an overview that you don't want, then these are the kinds of terms and conditions that you definitely want to have in your proposal. If you're just starting out, you've had a bit of a chat with somebody and they've asked you to send them something or to summarize the conversation that you've had, this is the proposal template that you really want, because you simply insert your specific details, your name, your contact details, the scope of the project and the fees, and everything else is already written for you. It's going to save you literally hours and hours of work, and it will also enable you to send something that you know is professional, is best practice, so that you can feel confident that when they get that, you've got the very best chance of landing your first copywriting client. So remember to head over to copyschool.com/proposal to get your template so that you can start sending it off right now and landing that first copywriting client. So good luck and happy writing.